Next, we can see the oxidation reactions. So oxygen is an important gas. It leads to many different chemical reactions. So you know copper, right? It's a kind of metal. When you heat copper, in a china dish, when you heat it for some time, the color of copper changes into black. Originally, the copper color is just something orange and reddish. It changes into black because of the formation of copper oxide. So this is an example of oxidation reaction. So copper plus oxygen gives you copper oxide. That's the chemical reaction. So 2Cu, which is copper, plus oxygen O2 gives you 2CuO, copper oxide. And the color has changed to black now. The opposite of oxidation reaction is reduction reactions. Before we did oxidation, this is exactly the opposite of oxidation reaction. So here we add hydrogen, or we remove oxygen. It's the same process. So hydrogen is added and oxygen is removed. Let's see an example. So before you saw formation of black copper oxide when we heated copper in presence of oxygen. Now if we add hydrogen to this, the color would change to the original color of the copper. The oxygen would be removed. So in oxidation reaction, oxygen is added, and in reduction reaction, oxygen is removed. So that's why these two are opposite reactions. So we would write this equation as that CuO, copper oxide, and you add hydrogen molecule to that. So the oxygen molecule is removed. And in this process, water is released. And the color goes back to the original color of metal copper. That's the reduction reaction. Now we would see redox reaction. We've already learned about oxidation reaction and reduction reaction in which hydrogen was added. So these two reactions I hope you remember. Now if both happen at the same time, the oxidation as well as reduction, both are happening at the same time, we call it a redox reaction. For an example, look at zinc oxide. So ZNO, that is zinc oxide. If you add carbon to that, that is C, they both react. And what happens next? The zinc is reduced, that is the oxygen is removed, plus The carbon, which was only C, now get oxidized. So the oxygen is removed from zinc and added to the carbon. As you can see, there are so many different kinds of reaction. Maybe you can learn more, discuss, and get more experience and understand more about the topic. I have already explained about oxidation reaction, how chemical changes happen when you add oxygen. There are many different effects of oxidation reaction. For an example, corrosion. What happens to the metal? Why does it rust and get corroded? It's because of oxidation reaction. If there is moisture and wind, presence of oxygen, the color of the metal changes and it becomes corroded. Similarly, for gold rings and then silver, if you keep them for a long time, they turn black and difficult to clean. So in this way, oxygen forms a layer on different metals and leads to color change. Oxygen is really powerful and has many effects. So you must have seen old cars and buildings falling down and bridges falling down. What exactly is the reason behind that? That is corrosion of metals because of presence of oxygen, and metal lose their strength after corrosion. So it is important to make a film to prevent contact with oxygen and moisture. Otherwise, in a few years, the entire building can collapse. Similarly, if you see these ships, because of the salt water and wind and moisture, the strongest of the ship can sink. So you have seen how oxidation affects metal. It also affects our food. Different kinds of food that we eat in home. So for an example, potato fries and fruits. We keep it for some time and we can see the color change and the taste and the smell changes. The reason for that too is oxidation reaction. The food reacts with oxygen. So for an example, potato, if you keep for a long time, especially if it has salt in it, after some time, it can become bad. So if you want to protect it for a longer time, you need to prevent contact with oxygen. For an example, jams and other things that you want to protect, you have to keep in tightly sealed cans so that it can stay for a longer time without getting spoiled due to oxygen. And hence, oxidation reaction can have several negative impacts.